This is the GTN Show, and this week we're going to be following on from our discussion, is triathlon becoming too expensive? And we are joined by pro triathlete Nikki Bartlett.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Cheers.
Oh, it's great to have Nikki. We're also going to be tracking Ben Hoffman and Sebastian Kienle in the Cape Epic, and we're going to be discussing whether we, as athletes, have enough sleep.
Right, to start things off, we're going to talk about, is a triathlon becoming too expensive? We asked you this last week. The results are pretty conclusive. 8% of you said no, and 92% of you said yes. And a lot of you actually complaining that the entry prices are rocketing.
I mean, one of the prime examples is Kona. The entry fee to compete as an age grouper at the World Championships is $1,000. And that's before you even get out to Hawaii, one of the most expensive places. And there was a study 3 years ago that was quite, interesting or slightly depressing, whichever way you look at it, that found that the average household income per athlete competing in Kona was almost $250,000.
Wow. So
the average.
Are we getting kind of outpriced and outclassed by these people?
Is it the best athletes or is it the ones with the biggest checkbook?
Yeah, but then I guess you can find races that don't cost $1,000.
Well, of course, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've done a couple of races actually. Aberfaldy middle distance in Scotland is £85 to enter, and it's a beautiful race, probably one of the best locations I've raced in. And Bilbao half is a great one, really easy to get to both of those races.
Yeah, I mean, I entered a half marathon on the weekend. Sadly, it was cancelled due to snow, but it was only, if you entered ahead of time, it's £8 to enter a half marathon.
Yeah, there's definitely cheaper races out there if you want.
Yeah, but then I guess sometimes are you paying for the services and the level of the race? So, having closed roads, for instance, that sort of thing costs a lot to put on. So I can understand to an extent why some of the prices are going up, and some of these services are costing more. I think personally I'd rather race on closed roads.
No, I would pay more for closed roads, definitely safer. You're getting to your best standards and not getting stopped at traffic lights and cars and whatever.
I guess it also depends on what level you're racing at, and if it's your first one, and if if you're going for a time or you're just going for an experience, and with you're doing it with your friends and it's like your first event, then does that matter? If you've got to stop along the way, you might actually quite like to. Sorry, I got caught up at the traffic lights,
But I guess this isn't just about events and the cost of events. There's also the kit. I mean, a lot of people get very carried away with quite expensive kit, and do we need to be spending that much?
My first bike was £150 off eBay, and I had it for about 5 years, and I used that bike in races.
Changed it now, though.
Yeah, it's changed now. I'm not racing on it now, but yeah, there's so many bargains online on eBay and secondhand bikes that if you're just an entry athlete and you just get online and get a bargain.
Well, actually, we had a lot of comments in like this, people saying basically you don't need to break your bank balance to participate in a triathlon, you can get cheaper kit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Nikki said, eBay's the obvious one, but then you can still try and borrow stuff. So maybe your local club, if you ask around, it'll be amazing how many things people have spare that they're not using. And quite often races hire things, so you can hire a wetsuit at quite a lot of races.
Yeah, so whilst there is this increasing rise on entry prices, there are cheaper ones out there. So triathlon is still accessible, and if you're getting into triathlon, you can go and do a cheap race, you can do it cheaper. So it's cool.
Yeah, drop us a comment and let us know how cheaply you've done a triathlon before.
Well, leading on, one way to save money on a triathlon is to get someone else to pay your entry for you. And last week we saw a tweet from pro athlete Sarah True, who basically said she's a bit frustrated that she feels some people can't do triathlon because they can't afford the entry fee. And she said, if you give me a really good reason, then I'll consider paying your entry for you. And it looks as though she's followed through on that, because she had a tweet saying to 5 different names, check your DM.
Awesome. Well, moving on, we do spend a lot of our time focusing on our training, our nutrition, our equipment, conditioning, and so on. But one area, and quite a big area that we often neglect, is our sleep.
Well, our partners at Polar have just released an interesting insight into the sleeping habits of athletes.
Yeah, and it actually shows that quite a lot of athletes aren't getting enough sleep per night. So actually, do you structure your sleep like you structure your daily routine? Should you be getting more sleep, and should you be putting more focus on it? I think athletes tend to have this magic number of how many hours they should train per week, and actually how much time do you have to train is what you should be asking yourself and making sure you structure enough adequate sleep.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So Polar have actually tapped into their Polar Sleep Plus data from around the world, and they've actually used 6 million nights sleep.
Yeah, well, the average they found from that was 7 hours and 22 minutes. And then they found that women, on average, get an extra 22 minutes nights.
I'm quite tired today, actually. So.
Yeah, we're glowing, you can see.
Bright.
Actually, interesting, they had some facts of like who were the earliest awake and who went to sleep later.
Well, yeah, South Africans go to bed on average the earliest at 10:45, and actually the earliest risers are at 6:06 a.m.
And the latest to sleep are Hong Kong at 12:52 a.m. and Spain at 12:45 a.m.
Oh, I feel tired just thinking about going to bed that late. But it's amazing how, like Nikki, you said, that athletes can sometimes neglect it, and how important sleep is, because it's that period when your body gets to release growth hormone. And from the research, they're showing that if you're not having the recommended length of sleep, that actually maybe you're not releasing enough of this hormone, and that's what's needed to repair and recover. And we talk about training that basically, the way you get better is by recovery.
Yeah, you're trying to absorb all that hard work, so there's no point you're essentially burning the candle at both ends. You're training really hard, then not actually allowing yourself to sleep and recover.
But then it's one thing for us to say, this is how much sleep you should have, and it's back to that balance, isn't it?
So how much do you think you get, Nikki?
Probably around 7 to 8 hours.
Okay.
I'm up most mornings at 5 for swimming, so trying to get to bed at 9. But I try and work around things to get me organised in preparation for the morning so I can have more sleep. So just get all your swim kit ready, get your water bottles ready, really simple things that actually you can just get up and roll out as soon as possible, so you're maximising the sleep.
That's a really good point. I think probably a lot of our viewers are going, 9 p.m?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Well, I mean, you wouldn't cope in Spain, would you?
No, not when restaurants open at 8.
But then admittedly you are a professional athlete.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, it's
your job.
Yeah, it's my job to.
Yeah,
to
so
make
a lot of
sure.
our viewers are trying to juggle this around family and day-to-day life,
Yeah.
which is hard going. So.
Yeah.
Right, well, following on from that, we thought we'd ask you, what is the main limiting factor for you when it comes to your sleep time, if there is one?
Is it that you're simply cramming training in, or that the family, children, work-life balance is a limiting factor, or you simply can't sleep at night? Or if it's something completely different, comment below.
Yeah, and do you maybe actually just sleep like a baby so there's no issue at all?
Well, just let us know by clicking on the link in the poll above my head.
Right, now to check in on Sebastian, Kienle and Ben Hoffman, who are currently racing the Cape Epic mountain bike race.
Yeah, and they're doing pretty well at it. Admittedly, they're in the amateur section, but it is mountain biking, so I think we can let them off. And when we last checked, they were 3rd in that and 27th overall against the pros as well. And it's not been a completely smooth, easy road for them.
They're both struggling with stomach bugs, I think Ben particularly, so they have admitted they're not really on their normal best form. But South Africa, where you're heading to soon as well.
Yeah, the Ironman South Africa. Yep.
Yeah, so you'll be joining Ben Hoffman, who's going to go straight from the Cape Epic into Ironman South Africa.
And how about that for preparation, Nikki?
Yeah, pretty epic.
Hey guys, how's it going? Stage 1 down, dusted. Day 2 of diarrhea diaries. Yeah, we still have a little bit of a stomach bug, but we're battling through and pretty happy with our performance overall. We stayed upright for the most part. Ted said he had a crash at the beginning, but
and we were able to crash in the middle.
In the middle too, but we were able to work back from both of those and stay relatively strong. And I think we finished pretty high in our field. So yeah, I mean, we're not broken, and our bikes aren't too broken. So we'll get up and go again tomorrow.
Okay, next bit of news: the retirement of Brad Cardfell, also known as Stixie, one of the most consecutively consistent triathletes from Australia over the last 2 decades, and also known for his sprint finishes.
Yeah, arguably his best result was winning the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne on home soil in 2006.
And he also made it to the World Championship podium 3 times, getting 3 bronze medals. He went to the 2 Olympics, both London and Beijing, and also won a handful of ITU World Cups.
Yeah, really quite impressive. Well, Brad, we wish you all the best with your future endeavours. Now for the bicycle, and unfortunately GTN have beaten us to this, which I think is a bit unfair because this is far more apt for GTN given the shape of the frame. It is in the shape of a pie for a carbon fibre fixie.
By pie, Mark doesn't mean a slice of apple pie. It's actually the shape of the mathematical symbol of pi. And there was a Malaysian illustrator who just drew a picture of a pie symbol with 2 wheels on the bottom. And then there was a challenge that was taken up by Kienle and Makimavos to see if they could make this 2D image into a real-life bicycle. And I mean, it's been a lot of, a long process, I think, of lots of modelling and sanding and trying it again. And now it's actually a working bike.
A fully fledged bicycle. I wonder whether the illustrator actually ever intended for it to be made into a real bike. How do you fancy riding it for Ironman South Africa?
It would be interesting.
It gets some looks, I think.
It certainly looks fast.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we did beat GTN to with was the specialised power meter. It was officially announced and launched last week. We spotted it on Vicky Holland's pro bike, the Specialised Tarmac, whereas it took GTN until the Tour Down Under to spot it, subtly hidden behind a massive Specialised S.
Well, that was on the Specialised Dura Ace dual-sided power meter, but they've also got the S-Work cranked carbon version that we saw on Vicky's bike, as well as the Specialised power crank.
And going forward, Specialised S-Works top model bikes are all going to come standard with this power meter. And this is another power meter to add to the ever-growing list of power meters, and from a brand we possibly weren't expecting.
Well, now it's time for the GTN Paint Cave, and we've got a few interesting ones this week. Our first one, starting us off from George Sakas. And straight away, both of us were like, wow, this looks like a massive paint cave. But if you look closely, he doesn't have 2 screens of GTN. It's actually a mirror.
Yeah, slightly disappointing, actually. I thought a very, very big fan. But no, still a very good setup. He's got his Argon 18 on his turbo. He's got a treadmill beside.
It's one of those treadmills with the little, it's a bit different, isn't
Support
it?
from the kids.
Oh yeah, get a good spot. Yeah, 2 Go Daddy signs in front of the treadmill, and his medal's up on an Ironman sort of hook system. It's very cool. Moving on, something a bit different here from Dawid Pictor, and he said, "May the Watts be with you," and he's got Star Wars on the screen, and he's actually paused at the point it says, "I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last."
But sadly, we don't know what bike you're riding, but it's cool.
No, yeah, I can imagine that was quite motivating. That. Right, Clive Granger, and this is, spot this already, this is a fellow British athlete. See the GB suit down there.
He's been to the World Champs, I think it's the towel.
Yeah, nice. I think that is a Watt bike, the new Atom that he's sat on there, but I can't quite see it. And GTN on the TV again.
Yeah.
Nice.
Liking it.
And moving on, well, this one's a bit different. This one is actually sent in by Nikki herself, and this is actually at her parents' home.
My dad did this.
In your kitchen?
Yeah, in our kitchen.
I think you need to talk us through this.
Number one supporter is my dad. He's a painter and decorator, so he decided to put the Ironman symbol on the wall. And we have a separate section for when I get my first, so no pressure.
So what do your friends think when they come around and see this?
It's an eye-opener and a bit of everyone wants to have a look of kind of what I've won, and yeah, noticeable that there's a lot of thirds and seconds, so everyone's asking when the first
there's Ironman tattoos, and then there's Ironman wallpaper or walls.
I know, so. And I think it's staying there, and I've got a spot for the front room as well from my first photo.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, that's great. Please do keep sending in your paint caves using the hashtag GTN Paint Cave. Right, for the race news and starting things off, we have Ironman 70.3 Campeche, and guess who was on the start line? Terenzo Bozzoni. Again, after winning Ironman New Zealand and setting a new course record, and then winning Ironman 70.3 Bariloche, he then went and won this one. What do you think to that?
Very impressive, especially with the travelling and time zone difference. It's, incredible.
Yeah, I think it's kind of taken everyone by surprise. Yeah. Hats off to him. Well, in second place, it was Michael Weiss, who is the Uber bike. He's an ex-pro cyclist, so he had a very fast bike split. And in third, it was Rudolf von Berg.
Well, on the women's side, it was an Uber swim from the Uber swimmer Lauren Brandon. I mean, no surprises there. But she managed to hold on to that lead until towards the end of the bike, and then it was Heather Wurtel, who had an incredibly strong bike and run performance, and she ended up winning overall by almost 10 minutes. Lauren Brandon stayed for second, and then Angela Neath of Canada made it 2 on the podium for Canada, coming third.
Hi, I'm Heather Wurtel, and you're watching the GTN Show.
Results in from Ironman Taiwan 70.3, and American star Andy Potts came out of the lead in the swim, and Cody Bills was soon to overtake him on the bike and come off the bike with an impressive 5-minute lead.
Yeah, and then he carried on that performance to a 1:13 half marathon run split to take the win overall. In second, it was Felipe Azevedo. In third, it was Tim van Berkel. And then the GTN favourite, Andy Potts, in fourth.
Muffins.
Well, over on the women's side, coming out of the swim, it was Laura Dennis and Agnieszka Jerzyk who had the lead, but then Agnieszka took it away on the bike, opening up almost a 4-minute lead by the time she got to T2. And then it was down to the run, where she maintained the lead to take the win, but it was Leslie Smith who had a strong run to move up to second, and Laura Dennis finished in third.
Now for Xterra Chile, and it was sort of dominated on the men's side by previous Xterra world champion Mauricio Mendes, as he led from start to finish to take the overall win.
It was a battle for second place between Kieran McPherson and Brandon Rakita, and eventually Kieran went on to take second place and Brandon in third.
Well, over on the women's side, it was a much closer race between Alison Bakker and Fabiola Corona, who were battling it neck and neck for the majority of the race, and it wasn't until the run that Alison Bakker went away with it to take the overall win. Fabiola Corona second, and then in third it was Carolina Nieva.
And now for the GTN Caption Competition.
Yep, and last week we had a photo of Richard Murray going to kiss a seal. And we had some great captions coming in. This one from Jasmine Maincham said, "Well, now that all the podium girls are laid off, you will have to do."
Well, this one from Joel Klingenberg says, "Is this silly human kissing me on porpoise?"
Nice. Well, the winner as chosen by Nikki is from Tom Albrecht.
And he's put, "The GTN show gets my seal of approval, hashtag swim cap."
Nice. Nice and cheesy. Well, yeah, Tom, you get a GTN swim cap, so please do get in touch over Facebook to claim it. And for this week, we have this picture. It's from the Mooloolaba World Cup with the girls struggling in the surf a little bit.
Those waves are pretty impressive, and it looks like there might be a few who are about to be absorbed by that wave, I think.
I think this one at the front is kind of wondering what's going on.
Or she's relieved she's got through it. She's like, oh my God.
God, where's that bike? Yeah, well, please do leave your captions in the comments section below. Now time for the GTN Tribe, and this week it's sent in by Geneva Triathlon Club, one of 2 triathlon clubs in Geneva, but they think theirs is the best.
Well, I hope they do. They've got some pretty strong sign work here. Now this one, genevatriathlon.org, it looks very, there's a bit of an Australian theme going on somewhere.
Yeah, I did actually have to check they were from Switzerland, not Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly concerned. Well, I'm not sure if I'm more concerned about the sharks in Switzerland or the kangaroos or the ostrich. But
kangaroos on bikes. Wow, yeah. But yeah, having a look through all their photos, yeah, it seems like a really fun club. They travel around to races together. As you can see here, it looks really nice, whichever race they're at there. Some cool kit.
It all looks sunny as well.
I think that's Lake Geneva behind as well, with the big fountain you can see behind the guy.
Oh, well spotted.
It was actually, Geneva was my first ever international race, and it was a good race.
Oh,
really
there
cool.
you go, nice memories.
Yeah, so, and there we go.
And they obviously get some pretty hot weather at some point.
Awesome, well, we love seeing your tribes and your clubs, so please keep sending in using the hashtag GTN Tribe. Right, thanks very much for all your contributions for the show this week. We are actually off to Malta very soon, and we're going to be doing lots of open water swimming. So we'd love more of your suggestions and contributions as to what you want to see, what you want to hear, what you want to know. So please send them in and drop them in the comments section below.
And that's it for today's GTN show. Thanks so much, guys, for having me on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Nikki. Well, if you haven't done so yet and you want to watch more GTN videos, just click on the globe to subscribe. And last week we did a little bit of an investigation into riding with clipless pedals and flat pedals, and that video is just here.
And if you are entered for your first triathlon, we have actually done a series of videos of how to train for your first triathlon, and you can see that by clicking down here.